Cheeto Vera got the job done. He's been calling for this fight against Dom Cruz for months, maybe a year at this point, right? Never said it was anything personal. It was just like, he's ahead of me in the rankings. I want to fight this man. Then what happens? He got in front of Dominick Cruz, right? He ended up being the guy that was in front in the rankings and said, well, I still want to fight you. And yeah, you're behind me, but guess what? You wanted to fight ahead. Well, time to fight me now, buddy, right? And they got the job done, man. But we're talking in the intro, AJ, and we were just kind of saying that had Marlon Vera not gotten that TKO, that nasty head kick where Dom Cruz zigged when he should have zagged, and if you really break it down, there's actual technical analysis behind it that shows that that was planned, that was strategic. That wasn't just a lucky kick, right? So had he not got that, we could have saw Dominick Cruz cruising to a victory, no pun intended. Because Dominick Cruz, let's be honest, AJ, looked sharp as ever, looked on fire for a man who's overcome so many injuries, a man who was not supposed to be in this spot, but he looked great. But Cheeto Vera is the victor. Give me your initial impressions when you were watching the fight. Concerns, good takeaways, tell me it all.
Man, first thing was Dominick Cruz. For as storied as his career has been, homie was looking sharp, man. Fast, sharp, precise. His movement a little different. He still had all like the crazy movement he does. But he was sitting down on some of these punches, man, and throwing those 4 or 5 punch combos and then getting out. And it was a little worrisome, man. That first round, all the way up until the third, basically all the way up until he ate the head kick. Cruz is looking good, man. You can see it on the numbers, total strikes. He outstruck him by 40 or so strikes, 30 significant strikes. Like Dom was leading the fight the entire time. But like you said, very calculated strike from Cheeto, and there was actually a moment in the fight where he threw that exact same kick earlier. It just missed. So you can see him setting it up. You can see him reading it, and he was doing the film study. And we were talking about this on the pre-show, that there's more and more and more film now on Dominick Cruz, so people are able to catch it. And it's one of those things he very much likes to dip off to the side. And Cheeto saw it, Cheeto read it, and threw the perfect kick for it.
Absolutely, man. And I'm actually glad that you brought that up because take a look at this because you're talking about like the numbers, right? Dominick Cruz outstruck Cheeto Vera. Look at Cheeto Vera's last 5 wins. So if you look at his last 5 wins, you will notice that Cheeto Vera got outstruck in 4 of those 5 wins. The only fight where he outstruck his opponent was Davey Grant. That's the only fight. So Sean O'Malley, he outstruck Sean O'Malley. So I take that back. 3 out of 5 fights, right? So he outstruck Sean O'Malley, but that's partially because O'Malley's leg fell apart and he got the ground and pound, right? But Frankie Edgar, he was getting outstruck by Frankie Edgar, and that was another one where he was setting up that front kick, man. He threw it a bunch of times throughout the fight, and finally in that 4th or 5th round, it finally connected, right? You look at the Rob Font fight, he got outlanded majorly right there, outlanded, majorly by Dominick Cruz. And I do think it is something worth noting because, AJ, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to jump ahead, right? Big picture. If Cheeto Vera does get title aspirations, if he does get a title shot coming up here, I just find it hard to see. And don't get me wrong, man. There's no disrespect here. We picked Cheeto Vera to win, which was a bold call given Dominick Cruz was his opposition. But I just feel like it's going to be hard-pressed to see a long title run given that you're almost banking on knocking these dudes out because you're giving away rounds by making so many reads. I'm not, like I said, not hating. It's all love. But I just feel like I can see a judge being like, well, I'm going to give it to the title challenger because he was more volume. He was busier. You landed the bigger shots, but he was busier, da-da-da-da-da. Do you feel what I'm saying, or do you think I'm overreacting here?
No, I feel what you're saying, man. And being a slow starter like Cheeto Vera is a very risky game to play because when the other fighters banking those rounds and they're getting like you said, getting in the judge's head of, oh, I'm the one controlling the fight, it's hard pressed to always need the knockout. And I think it was Michael Bisping who was talking to us. It might have been somebody else if I misquote this, but if you're fighting to get the knockout, you're not going to win a decision, and that's kind of Cheeto Vera's style, man. And so it's a risky game to play right there.
I agree, but at the same time, even though I make that assessment, I do think championship rounds Cheeto is a new unlocked mythical fighter. Like, this is a new beast right here because once it gets to those rounds 4 and 5, he's still damn near just as fresh as rounds 1 and 2, and the power is still there, the speed is still there. He kind of goes at this similar pace where it's just nonstop, same pace. Listen, he breaks these dudes, man. And with Dominick Cruz, this was a situation where you're right, man. He threw that head kick. He kept throwing that right hand and seeing Dominick Cruz duck off, where he would duck off and put his hand down. He was like, okay, let me just put the kick, place the kick, and boom. right there. AJ, what does it mean to you that Chito Vera has become the second man in history, right, to finish Dominick Cruz via knockout? The only other man was Henry Cejudo. Chito Vera is the second man to do it. And you can argue that Chito Vera is the man to officially do it, to faceplant Dom Cruz, because the Henry Cejudo stoppage was, according to Dominick Cruz, very early by Keith Peterson, right? So this was a flat out, there's no denying it. You got face planted, your nose is broken, rough spot. What do you think?
Rough spot, man. Rough spotting, and solidifies it for Cheeto, man. This was a very big win on a very notable opponent. So, man, I mean, all credit to Vera because it was a beautiful kick too.
And all credit to the bettors that said, you know what, I believe in Cheeto enough that I think he's going to get the TKO because he cashed in on the plus 300 TKO. I honestly felt like Dominick Cruz would have edged himself out to a decision win, or if Chito Vera got the win, it was going to be by a decision. I did not think he'd be able to do this to Dominick Cruz, but in impressive fashion, he got the job done. Hit on the under, so we both kind of missed on this one. We whiffed pretty bad, but Chito Vera, man, it's almost like he's ready for the limelight. All of the fights that he's had thus far have prepared him for the moment because, excuse me, he's not flinching, bro. It's like he's absolutely ready for the call-outs. You remember what they said pre-show? They said, listen, I'm fighting for a championship. I'm fighting for my family, all this good stuff. I'm willing to die in there. So I guess, tomorrow night it's going to be a good day to die. And I think both of those fighters lived by that marriage. So huge win by Marlon Chito Vera. This is inevitably the next step. And my last question before we move on here, AJ, is what is that next step? Who does Chito Vera get next? Does he get a title shot? I mean, you're number 5 and you beat number 8. So that doesn't really warrant a title shot, but this is the biggest win of his career. He said fighting Jose Aldo was the biggest fight of his career, but you just beat the former bantamweight champion, who many regard as one of the best bantamweight champions ever. So talk to me. What do you think?
And I'm pretty sure Dominick Cruz only has ever lost 2 title holders or in title fights. Like there's no contender, there's nothing like that. So this is a big win for Cheeto. Where does he go next? I'm thinking 2, 3. I mean, we'll see on the actual rankings, but I don't think he gets a title shot. But I do think he gets a pretty big bump. What do you think?
Well, Piotr Jan is fighting Sean O'Malley. That's already booked up. Jose Aldo, he's fighting Merab Dvalishvili. TJ Dillashaw is fighting Aljamain Sterling. So basically, Chito Vera, unless he decides to fight down and fight Merab, who I think might have a fight lined up too, he just plays the waiting game and just lets the division sort itself out. So I think we're playing the waiting game right now, but he's bro, you're right there. You're knocking on the door for title shot right there. If that didn't get you in, you're knocking on the door. You're right there. So huge win by Marlon Chito Vera right there.